Is Microsoft Copilot safe? Where does your data go? Can you trust it with your business information? These are questions that stop people from actually using Copilot, even when it could save them hours every week. I'm Michelle, and I'm going to give you straight answers about Copilot security and data privacy. The short answer, yes, it's safe. Microsoft isn't stealing your data. But there are things you need to know and watch out for, so let me break this down properly. First, let's clear up the biggest fear. Is your data going to OpenAI's public servers? Is it training ChatGPT? The answer is no. Here's what actually happens. You use Copilot, let's say, to draft an email. Your request is sent through to Microsoft, and that's specifically the Azure OpenAI service. Note, this is not the public ChatGPT. This is Microsoft's private enterprise version running on Microsoft's infrastructure in the UK or in local data centers. During that time, your data is encrypted while it travels, and that means it's scrambled so nobody can intercept it. Once received, the AI processes it and sends back the response. Microsoft logs that in your environment, not their training database. Here's the critical bit. Your data is not used to train Microsoft's AI models. They don't take your business information and feed it back into the system to make the AI smarter. Your data is processed to answer your question, then it's done. This is explicitly stated in Microsoft Terms of Service because they know businesses won't use it otherwise. So what does Microsoft do to keep your data secure? Well, the answer is quite a lot. First off, it's encrypted. It's encrypted while it's traveling, back and forwards, and when it's stored. That's a standard security practice. There are various compliance that Microsoft has to comply with, which includes things like the General Data Protection Regulations, GDPR, ISO, which is industry standards, and SOC 2, again, another industry standard. There are various other regulations, and if you're in a regulated industry, for example, healthcare, finance, legal, these really matter. Where are the files stored? Well, it depends on where you are based. So I'm a UK customer and it's processed in UK or in European data centers. It's not being sent around the world, and the same is going to be true for you depending on where you live. There are audit logs. Every interaction with Copilot is logged. You can see who used it, when, and what specific files it accessed. If you ever need to investigate, you can. And finally, there are admin controls built into your business tenant. You can turn Copilot off entirely. You can restrict it to specific users or even disable certain features, and that's across different applications. It's you or your admin who is completely in control. So Microsoft is doing their part. They're a massive, regulated, audited company. They're not in the business of stealing your data. But, and this is important, Microsoft isn't actually the risk you need to worry about. Here's what you actually need to watch out for, and it's not Microsoft, it's your own file permissions. Let me give you a scenario. Let's say 6 months ago, you created a document with client pricing information. You saved it in SharePoint and shared it with your team because you needed their input. The project finished. You moved on. But you forgot to restrict the permissions on that file, which means it's still accessible to everybody on your team. Now, someone asked Copilot a question about pricing, and Copilot searches through accessible files to find the answer. It finds that document because it's technically accessible and it includes the information from it. The problem isn't Copilot. The problem is your file was shared too widely to begin with. Copilot is just making that permission problem obvious. So, here's what you need to do. Before you enable Copilot, you need to audit your SharePoint permissions. Go through your sites, check who can access what, And if everyone can see everything, and they probably shouldn't, that needs to be fixed. You need to check your OneDrive sharing. So this is everybody individually. What have you shared externally? What's shared within the team? And make sure that those sensitive files are really private and nobody else can see them. Pay attention to Excel spreadsheets. Let's be honest, they're the ones that most often have the financial data, lists of clients, pricing. Where are these stored? And more importantly, who can access them? Microsoft also offers something called sensitivity labels within your business tenant. So if you handle GDPR covered data or truly confidential information, it's a really good business habit to use these sensitivity labels. Mark things as confidential or internal only because Microsoft will respect these labels. The risk isn't Microsoft stealing your data. The risk is that your files are already overshared, and Copilot makes that so visible. Right, here's what I actually recommend. If you're using a free or included Copilot chat, like I am, the risk is low. You control what files you open, and nothing happens automatically. Just don't paste truly sensitive information into Copilot while you're testing it. Client passwords, confidential data, that sort of thing. Be sensible. Remember, because Copilot isn't available through Excel desktop, any sensitive spreadsheets that you work on through there are completely separate and in that respect safer. However, if you're considering paid Copilot, do that permission audit first. Spend an afternoon checking who can access what. Test it on your own account before rolling it out to your team. Check the audit logs monthly to see what's being accessed. And for everyone, remember, Microsoft is not the risk. They're a regulated, audited company with everything to lose if they mishandle data. The risk comes down to your own file management. Fix that and maintain it. Copilot is then as safe as the rest of M365. Treat it like you treat a new employee. You wouldn't give them access to everything on day one, and you train them on confidentiality. It's the same principle here. So, is Microsoft Copilot safe? Well, the answer is yes. Your data isn't being stolen. It's not training public AI models. It's processed securely within Microsoft's infrastructure. What you need to watch out for is your own file permissions. Make sure sensitive data isn't overshared. That's it. That's the real answer. Don't let fear of AI stop you from using a tool that could genuinely save you hours every week. Just use it sensibly and audit your permissions first and regularly. That wraps up my Copilot series. We've covered what it is, what it costs, whether you need it, how to use it, and whether it's safe. If this series has been helpful, please subscribe. I do these practical M365 tips every week. If you have questions, comments, leave them below. I try to read every one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.